are you with this middle-aged weirdo? Does he have a lot of money?
Hey, everybody, and welcome to We Watch TV. It is the podcast about the TV that we watch. I'm Daniel. This is Hope. We are on episode 101, and man, has it stopped raining for like 4 days? 5 days?
No.
All I know is when I take Marvin out to use the bathroom, there are like two quasi-dry, when I say dry spot, it's like spots where you don't sink an half inch into the ground every time you take it out there.
I'm sure he wants to go through the puddles.
Of course.
Even though he doesn't really like his feet being sopping wet. That's been fun.
He stays out of the standing water down at the end of the driveway. He doesn't get anywhere near that. But the normal places he likes to go that are puddles, they're not puddles, but they're wet. He jumps in.
And he probably blames you. He's like, "Why'd you put these here?
Yeah,
Why are you ruining everything?" But if you try to towel off his feet, he's like, "Excuse me."
Oh no, that's not acceptable.
Betrayal.
That is unacceptable in every way.
Anyway, we're a couple middle-aged weirdos, right?
Yeah, I suppose.
I'm forever young.
I suppose. I don't know about that, Hope. We're for everybody who's listening.
Forever young.
We're
I wanna be forever.
We're doing this episode here this week. We're taking next week off because we're going on a little adventure for somebody's birthday. We won't say which one, but
my 27th birthday.
your 20.
All right, let's just get into some shows. We watched a big one. The White Lotus Season 3 finale. It has since aired. We know everything that happens.
Spoilers going forward, of course.
Yes, and remember, check those chapter markers. This is your final warning. White Lotus. The coconut milk is bad.
There was a lot of, this episode was interesting.
I thought it was a good finale. I think that the people that are complaining about it, clearly didn't watch the other two seasons, or maybe they're, 'cause even season 2, while there was a lot of action, the endings are still kind of we had, Tanya's accident, but they never really, I keep seeing people are like, oh, there's plot holes because we didn't see XYZ. That's the way it is every season with the White Lotus. We don't see these characters after they leave, the resort. So I agree with you. It was interesting. I think I was right about the major death. Again, spoiler alert, my R.I.P., my fellow Aries, my queen Chelsea. But if you didn't see, I saw somebody was like, I can't believe they did this. I actually had a conversation with somebody about this because he was like, there's no way they're going to kill her off. And I'm like, they've literally been foreshadowing it since the first episode, heavily on the nose. She's like, I'm going to make you happy or whatever, even if it kills me. Tragedies come in threes. Basically, Chelsea, her whole purpose at that point was trying to make Rick happy. And it was honestly, and she's like, oh, we're a great love story, but it ended up being a great love story, like Romeo and Juliet style. So what do you think? We'll just kick off talking about Chelsea.
Yeah, so I'm with you. She had some dialogue early in the season, maybe even episode 1.
I think it was the first episode.
And that was kind of foreshadowing. That kind of had it in my mind. Yeah. She was on my short list. I'm a little surprised Rick as well.
Yeah, that surprised me a little bit that both of them.
I kind of thought he would be the reason that she died, which he was,
yes.
But that he would have to live with the consequences of that.
And he didn't.
And he didn't. So that was surprising to me.
Chloe, Gary's wife, whatever you want to call her, was like, oh, every time girls go for romance, something awful happens. So she kind of that's another example.
There was a lot of foreshadowing for Chelsea, for sure.
I think that she was definitely Chelsea and Victoria were the best characters for me this season. So it was kind of a bummer, obviously, to see, but it honestly, for the story that he was telling, that made sense. I definitely agree with you. I thought Rick was going to have to kind of have the consequences of that, what happened. So for everybody that's been paying attention to the White Lotus, Rick's was there. He took her there specifically because he had a bone to pick with the owner's husband, who he was told by his mother on her deathbed, killed his father. Well, you and I I thought like before we even met the man, I was like, that's going to be Rick's dad. And I've seen some people say, because he comes back, I don't know why Rick thought he could walk in to the resort with no consequences. Like, it was nothing. I did like he and Chelsea's reunion scene, but I was like, I figured he would have come back and been like, hey, we got to go. But he really wasn't thinking.
That to me is either his character is an idiot or kind of a plot hole.
Or he wasn't as evolved from it as we would like to think, and he was...
I mean, true. He did like
get
flustered by that guy immediately after seeing him a second time at the hotel.
So they show up because they want to take a picture with Jacqueline, the TV star, and of course they're going to point and look at Rick, be like, oh my gosh. And I've seen some people that are like, if he was his dad, why didn't he just tell them? He more or less, like, he didn't say it directly, but he was like, oh yeah, I know your dad. Your dad, like, basically, like, your mom's a liar. So he triggered Rick with that. And he was like, your dad, like, sucks. Basically, he was calling himself a terrible person.
Yeah, and I
think... Could he have saved his, like, life? Because he died, too, correct?
Correct.
Assume?
Well, we assume.
Yeah.
He's an older guy, was already having health issues, and took 2 shots to the chest.
Yeah.
I would assume he probably didn't make it. I think if I had to get inside of the old man who turned out to be Rick's father, it had to be like, this is going to hurt this guy more knowing that I abandoned him than if he just thinks I killed his dad. So maybe I don't...
You're giving him a lot of credit, because I just felt like the guy was kind of a piece of crap anyway and had done a lot of shady things, was basically like, hey, I suck. I mean, obviously he, was honest enough that he did tell the wife.
Right, but
because she was like, he is your father.
Yeah, but self-preservation at some point, right? Like, this escalated very quickly, and you've got to think it wouldn't maybe have escalated to the point that it did if Rick knew that was his actual father.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if he knew, like, it would have been just, I don't know what direction they would have gone in, but I don't think there would have been, like, the violence that there was. That being said, well, this ended up being, like, the most, I say, cartoony death sequence. A lot of times I feel like the White Lotus is rooted in, like, realism with human experiences. I will say the way that whole, like, shooting scene went down was a little, like, movie villain cartoony. I'm not criticizing it. I mean, we had similar things to that in other shows. Even though that was like the big action scene, I felt like Rick's storyline was by far the most boring. Well, next to Gadok, but
I wouldn't say
like,
boring.
and I love Walton Goggins and I love Chelsea, but like at some point I'm like, I just didn't care about Rick and his daddy drama. I'm like, show me the 3 friends, show me the Ratliff family, can't get enough of them. Show it to me, Rachel. Like, like just more Chelsea content. I don't know. That ended up being, like I said, like the big playoff, like of the action sequence. But I found his storyline like the most. Where I was like,
sure. I think I liked his journey a little bit more than that, especially as he intersected with what's his face's character in Bangkok.
Oh, Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell. Yeah, sorry, his name just escaped me there. I thought that was interesting, and the way, honestly, at the end of the day, Sam Rockwell is the one that actually was able to change himself versus Rick, who just wasn't.
But then Sam Rockwell went right back to old habits too.
No, but at the end shot, there he is, right back in the Buddhist temple doing his meditations again. Like, he's the one who's able to deal with it.
I didn't even notice that he was back in the Buddhist temple.
He was able to deal with it, and where Rick is just like, he was consumed with it. And I think you're right. I think he might have had some momentarily clarity when he after the first confrontation with the guy who turned out to be his dad, but he so quickly, when he saw him for a second time, lost it.
Absolutely.
And that tells me that it was just a surface level understanding, and he truly was a broken person who was going to end that way one way or the other. So you
think while Sam Rockwell kind of fell off the wagon a little bit, that he did revert back to can we give it up for his little, when he's trying to chase Rick down in the hallway, I don't know, this had to be improvised, right? He does this like little roll like on the floor, and everyone's like, the White Lotus isn't funny. I'm like, stuff like that is funny.
Yeah. So
tragic ending for our Chelsea and Rick. And the bodies, the body that we found in the water at the beginning of the season, that was one of the security guards.
Yep.
So we had the 2 security guards that were shot in that kerfluffle. That's how our poor Chelsea gets shot. And it was so sad. At least she got her donut before she got shot. She was like, will you get me a donut? So then Rick runs over and gets her the donut while he's running off. And I love how she's running after him and she still took a bite of it.
It just is interesting to me that, I don't know, it felt kind of like her character for me didn't get quite as much of the ending that, even though she died, I felt like she didn't get quite as much of the ending as maybe I would have liked to have her. She just kind of suddenly, she's there laying on the ground. But
that's what happens when you take your life and you put it in the hands of another person. She was basically letting Rick dictate her decisions, her choices. So I think that was almost like symbolism.
Yeah, but at the same time, she does have a lasting effect on somebody from the show, on another character, and then we get over to the Ratliff family.
Yes.
Which we kind of started talking about that at the beginning of the show, but then got off to Rick. But to me, that moment of the pina coladas was the most like rah of the entire, like once we got to the end of the episode and Rick was sitting there looking at who he found out to be his dad, I knew what was going to happen. Yeah. He was going to go take his gun. He was going to shoot him, get in a shootout. Yeah. People were going to die, right? I knew that was going to be happening. But honestly, so the dad has finally decided, after talking to every family member in the Ratliff family, that he's just going to kill all of them except for one. Because one of them gave him the answer that he wanted.
Well, basically, you're getting way ahead of yourself.
I know. There's so much to unpack with this.
Let's rewind. Okay, so back to Saxon and Chelsea. We'll go ahead and talk about them since they're connected. I feel like Saxon ended up being the character that honestly surprised me the most. Do I think he still has crappy ways? Yeah, but do I think that he wants to try to have more purpose in life? I think it was clear he does by the end of that episode. I think the event between him and his brother, his interactions with Chelsea, I think it actually made him do a little soul searching. No one's perfect. He's still going to, I'm sure, behave in certain ways. He ended up honestly being like the most normal, like of all the siblings at the end, which is crazy to me. But a lot of people are like, oh, was he in love with Chelsea? I don't think so. I think at first she was like his white whale because she was rejecting him, turning him down. It made him more interested. But then I think he actually, like, she called him out for better or worse.
Correct.
You're soulless. And I think that like got to him a little bit. And then I watched an interview with Amy, is there Amy Lou Wood, the girl that plays Chelsea? And she was like, oh, that, she still wants to be with Rick. She doesn't like Saxon in that way, but the reason why when she was helping him in the previous episode and she kind of pulled back was that Saxon was actually starting to see who she was and she wasn't used to that. And I think it's clear that even after he sees Chelsea reunite with Rick, that he continues to read the books, that we do have some character growth there. What do you think about Saxon? I truly think that there's a little bit, like, it's not some major character heel turn change, but he's trying to be different.
I think all three of the kids came away from this with a little bit more understanding of who they are, for better or for worse. Yeah.
Yep.
So
do you buy it that Saxon is wanting to have a better
buy that
purpose?
He has going to give it a shot. Now, is it going to stick? Who knows?
Yeah.
But I think what he's going to find out when they get back to North Carolina and the fallout of what's going on with his dad and the company is going to it's either going to push him to become worse version of himself, or it's going to push him towards where Chelsea kind of tried to position him.
Yeah.
Because he said, I'm nothing without this job and I'm nothing without you. And she called him soulless. Those two things have really like struck in me as the counterpoints to who he is going to be in the future. Is he going to continue to be that soulless person, or is he going to try and make something of himself? And we're never going to get to see it.
The beauty is we're never going to see it.
And that's the beauty of it.
Write your own ending. So that brings us to Saxon and Lachlan. Now, I've always said, and my therapist says that too, that I am an extreme people pleaser. I'm not that big of a people pleaser. Lachlan took people pleasing to the boss level. Do you buy it that I do think he has people pleasing tendencies, but are you buying that was the reason why he chose to do the things he did with the service of his brother in that moment, that drunken, pilled up evening on the boat?
I buy that is how he's reconciled it in his mind.
That's a good answer. I think that there is still a lot that Lachlan needs to figure out. one of the things that I felt like Lachlan and Saxon's interaction, Saxon was basically like, no, I'm not going to make you a protein shake. He's like, I know you worship me, but you shouldn't worship me. Be your own man. And I felt like Lachlan is just tried to be somebody for all of his siblings and his parents, because I do think he is a people pleaser, but I think there's some deeper seated stuff that's going on, which we'll never know.
Yeah. I think that conversation they had there about the incident and knowing how guys operate is the last time they'll ever speak of it. It's gone.
Have you seen now all the TikToks with Lachlan and the baby, I'm a giver?
Yeah, you sent me a couple of those. That was pretty good.
So that brings us. We'll circle back to Lachlan and Tim in a minute because that's going to round us back.
Yeah.
So that brings us to Lachlan and Piper. No, so they stayed in the dirty monastery with the kids with no purpose. Buddhism. So we had the whole thing where Lachlan's like, maybe I'm going to stay too, and you could see that Piper sort of made a face. I thought it was because Piper realized like, I'm no longer special. And I think that was part of it. Like that when she heard Lachlan say that. But I also think that, and you weren't sure at first, but I think they kind of confirmed that Piper was trying so hard to be special, to break away from her family. But I think she did get the ick.
Yeah, no, I think when she started her monologue about saying the reasons why she was deciding not to go to the monastery, I wasn't entirely sure. I wasn't entirely sure she was being sincere, and it wasn't just she was decided that because Lachlan was into it, suddenly she wasn't into it. But by the end of that monologue, when she got emotional about it, I was pretty clear that was genuinely her having the realization. A realization that, and I do think genuinely having a realization that she needs that luxury stuff that she's used to, and she kind of hates herself for it. Yeah. But at the same time, she's also recognizes I can't do without this stuff, even if it makes me sick. That I can't do without this stuff.
I feel like Lachlan was only going to stay, not just the people pleasing thing, but because of everything that had happened. It was an avoidance kind of thing going on with him. Like almost maybe he might have actually benefited from being at a place like that.
Very possible.
We'll never know. I have to say that one of the things that I like in shows is when costuming, outfit, wardrobe is important. And that was absolutely reflected in Piper accepting, like, I hate that I'm just like this princess. And I'm like, you know what, girl, I am a princess, so hair flip. What did Victoria say? It would be offensive for us not to spend the money.
To enjoy it.
In that moment, you see Timothy's face making like, oh gosh, I'm going to have to kill my daughter now too. Add her to the kill list. Anyway, back to the costuming. If you notice at the start of the season, Piper was always in very flowy white, yellow, pastel type of colors and clothing, like very kind of just, nothing flashy, still nice clothes, but not very simple. After that, she has a dark blue 2-piece outfit on. You see her shopping to get jewelry with Victoria. And then the next morning, she has a maroon dress on, I think with like pink shoes. And then on the boat ride home, a very loud, like kind of orange floral print type of outfit. And that was 100% an intentional clothing choice for Piper. I truly believe that. So it's little details like that make me like shows like this. I know like certain stuff that you search for with cinematography from like a camera thing. I look to that and like clothing. I'm always looking at like the stylist, what the wardrobe people do. And I really, really appreciated that. And I also, can I just say too, that moment when Piper's like crying and Victoria's like giving Timothy the thumbs up, about took me out. It was so good. So that brings us to Timothy realizing like, oh my gosh. So Timothy has one more conversation with our people pleaser Lachlan. And he's like, could you live without, all the, finer things in life? Could you live with nothing? And Lachlan's like, yeah. Do you think Lachlan said yes because he thought that's what his dad wanted to hear, or do you really think Lachlan was serious?
I think he was serious because how would Lachlan know what answer Tim was looking for?
That's true.
in that moment, because
That's
he hasn't necessarily. Remember, we've been seeing everything
Yeah.
Tim's going through, and we've seen these conversations
None
from
of the
his
family is good at vibe checking their daddy.
from his perspective, but we haven't necessarily, unless they never showed us Lachlan specifically like listening in on these conversations he's been having with the other family members. So I do believe that he was like he wasn't really putting much thought to it. It was kind of like an offhanded, like, yeah, I probably could.
See, I feel like he kind of, I can see that point of view, but I also think there was part of it that he did, like, even though he didn't know what his dad was going through, why is his dad asking him this question? So I think he was like, yeah, sure. Like, I think as a people pleaser, not to that level, but as a people pleaser myself, I could see myself being like, yeah, even though I know that I would be like Piper and the food's not even organic.
If you're taking it from a morality standpoint, the answer to the question is yes. You should, if you want to be a good and pious person, you should be able to answer yes to that question.
Meanwhile,
so maybe that's people pleasing from even a societal standpoint.
Yeah. So Lachlan's safe from Timothy's,
Tim decides
group kill list.
He's going to make pina coladas for the family. He's going to put the poison fruit nuts into it.
Which that finally came back into play. We all knew it would. They mentioned that don't eat this fruit, it's poisonous. We've had the blender with Saxon making his drinks. I think that was something collectively from all the wild theories out there. The one thing everyone agreed on, this is going to come into play.
So of all the tension in all the season, the scene where he's handing them out to everybody is the most tension, and it even gets worse when they actually start drinking it.
But hey, when they were doing their toast, Victoria finally realized what country she was in. To Thailand.
Yeah. And so what?
It was intense. I was sweating.
It's unclear to me how much you have to drink to get sick, because as far as we can tell, no one got sick.
Except
with
for
the amount that they got, except for Lachlan.
So Lachlan didn't get a pina colada. Tim was like, "You're not 21 yet. Go get a Coke." And I like the way he said it in the Southern voice. Go get a Coke, because bravo again for their North Carolina accents. Love it. I agree with you. It was way more. We knew what was going to happen with Rick and the shooting. Yeah. We knew that. Obviously, any scene that Gary Gregg is in is going to be tense. That was just. Because it lasted so long, it had the circle, it panned to each family member.
And each of them drank like multiple times before Tim finally stopped and was like, the coconut milk is bad, and starts grabbing the drinks and smacking them out of people's hands.
Well, it was one of those things where I do feel like people kind of like fact checked the show a little bit and like, oh, you would have gotten way sicker. But again, I'm just going to say it's a show, it's TV. If you notice, I feel like Victoria drank the most. She kind of made a face. Then she started to throw it back. Mm-hmm. Piper took a little sip. It really wasn't until Timothy was staring at Saxon, who was about to take sip number 2. Yeah. And he knocked it out of Saxon's hand and then told everybody else to put it down. The coconut milk is bad. That's all I'm going to think about now. And I guess there's like some White Lotus creamer. And everyone's like, we're not going to think of this the same now.
Yeah.
Definitely. I feel like Jason Isaacs and Parker Posey both need Emmy noms.
They were great. Yeah.
They were great. Like, Jason Isaacs, like, I'm glad he ended up not having a panic attack. That was nice. But just my dude, like, the scene where Piper was saying she couldn't live at the monastery, you could just see his, like, throat seizing. Mm-hmm. So that brings us to the next step. We have the coconut milk is bad. We're not going to drink the stuff. But he leaves the blender not fully cleaned out on the counter. Now, I have seen some people that are like, why would Timothy not wash it out? Guys, they're rich. I doubt the man has ever washed a dish a day in his life. So at that point, you and I know. We're like, Lachlan's going to be drinking out of that blender. Cue the next morning, and old Lockie, just, he's like, I'm going to make my protein shake or whatever.
By the way, and he chooses not to wash out the blender before. Now, I want to address this front and forward as someone who was at one point a teenage boy, and anybody out there who is a parent of teenage boys, because I've seen people on the internet go, why would he not rinse
so many people
why
so
would he
mad
not
about
rinse
that?
the blender out before he uses it? And again, I just want to say the reason is teenage boy. There's no, you don't need an explanation.
Gross.
If you've been around him, you know why he wouldn't do it.
And there's other reasons you could say, too, besides that. I think that's the main one, is that maybe he thought Saxon had already used it and was just not going to wash it out. But I think the main thing is, like you said, teenage boy. I mean, didn't you at one point have a coffee mug that you would only wash like once a week as a grown man?
Once a week?
I'm or no.
So he makes himself a little protein shake, has a couple drinks of it out by the pool.
And then gets sick.
Gets real sick.
Puke.
Sees God.
Water. We thought he was. I'm glad that they didn't kill him off, but I thought he was gone. Like, I was like, oh crap.
But so the family goes to breakfast except for Tim, who sleeps in. Tim comes out and finds him. It's unclear to me if Tim really did anything or if.
Well, I think he saw that Lockie had made it. Yeah, I don't think he was calling for help, but then Lachlan like kind of woke up from it and puked some more. Yeah. So I don't know if he would have gotten help. Was this at the same time occurring as all the bullets? Were the other family members eating just breakfast blissfully unaware?
Yeah, just blissfully unaware as they would be. I think it to me it seems very clear that what actually happened was Tim never used enough to actually kill anybody, but they just all would have gotten really sick like Lachlan did.
Yeah.
And because it seems to me like you got to be a little bit more concentrated to actually get it to kill you.
And I think that point it wasn't where he knocked the thing out of Saxon's hand, Timothy. Like, I think that point where he was like, crap, I can't do this. I think it was what changed him to be like, you know what? Maybe we'll be okay, was seeing his kid actually almost die. Yeah. The one that wasn't going to take it. Because we have their little send-off. They all get on the boat, and they get their phones back. And he's like, hey, some stuff
Things
happened.
Things are going to change.
And a lot of people are really disappointed that we didn't get to see the reactions. I'm not. I'm fine with it. We never were going to get to see it. I never thought we were going to get to see it. If you want to see what a reaction is like to losing a lot of money, may I direct you to Schitt's Creek. You like Victoria, you're going to absolutely love Moira Rose.
Yeah, exactly. The White Lotus is you meet your characters on the boat to the resort, and you say goodbye to your characters on the boat leaving the resort, and that's it. You're not getting anything else.
You don't get, sometimes you get the through characters, like we got to see what Belinda was up to. Gary Gregg has been a through character, so let's go ahead and talk about Belinda. Basically, she has come full circle. Mm-hmm. So we had on the last episode, Gary Gregg was like, hey, I'm going to give you this money. I heard you want to start a business. Basically hush money. Like, don't say what I'm doing. And she's like, I can't accept that. That's blood money. And her son wasn't wrong. He was like, you're going to have to take this money or he'll kill you either way. So he wasn't incorrect. But then her son's like, let's see what we can get out of him. And he asked her, how much did he ask for? Like $5 million? Yeah.
So the original offer was $100,000 and they countered with $5 million.
Yeah. And Gary gave it to her. Yep. And then she decided, I'm not going to open my spa. I'm just going to enjoy some time being rich. So she had hooked up with I don't remember his name, the guy that...
Yeah, we didn't get a ton of him. He was one of the other masseuses at the resort.
They had talked about opening up a spa together. She literally said the same thing that Tanya said to her in season 1. Like, my circumstances have changed. Mm-hmm. And that is a full circle moment that even money can change the best of us, those of us with good intentions. That being said... I feel like you and I have clocked Belinda from like the get. Like, I never thought she was a bad person, but I do think she never liked Tanya. She was using Tanya too in season 1. So the people that act like Belinda was like some special angelic creature that did no wrong, I thought she had an entitlement that Tanya needed to help her. And like, I mean, what Tanya did to her was crappy. She had promised her she was going to do this stuff.
Yes, but allowing yourself to be led on by some flaky person, clearly flaky person. And feel like
you were owed that money too. Yeah. I don't know. I never thought Belinda was perfect, so I think it makes perfect sense. Do you think we'll see the new like Belinda, the guy that she did the same to?
I don't think we'll see any more of him.
I don't know either.
It left me, and we had this conversation off air, and I think you don't necessarily agree with me. It actually left Gary Gregg in a better light for me.
I have seen some people say that and agree with you online.
Because he could have, first of all, just killed her straight up without even offering hush money.
The murderer didn't kill somebody. Yay! 10 points for Gryffindor.
And when they came back and put it in his face, hey, instead of $100,000, give us $5 million. He could have just killed them. He had them in his house. It seems to me like his intent was never to kill anybody. He just wants to live the life that he has.
I think he is still a bad, slimy person.
I'm not saying he's not.
I know what you're saying, but I think that I think that was a last resort thing. I don't want to kill these people because that's going to draw attention, and then I'm going to have to go somewhere else. So I'm not going to, like, I've seen some people go as far as saying, I know you're not saying this, is that maybe he got redemption.
No.
Absolutely no redemption, but I think...
Looks like he's going to get that threesome, though.
Yeah. Will we see him again in the future? I don't know. He seems to be the one through character. And I've seen some other people that say that they were so disappointed that he didn't play a major role in like the events that went down. He was never going to. He was just there as
he's never played a
point.
major role in any of the seasons. He's
necessarily,
always just been there on the sidelines.
Yeah, being creepy.
So
how much you want to bet I can throw a football over the mountains? Coach would have put me in the fourth quarter. We would have been state champs.
No doubt in my mind.
No doubt in my mind. So that brings us then. Let's go to the females, the trio. That ended exactly the way I thought it was going to. That they were just going to end up friends. There wasn't going to be some big epiphany. Life goes on. And can I say, Mike White absolutely nailed female friendship dynamics. They all talk crap on each other. They all have their flaws. They've all done crappy things. But at the end of the day, I do truly believe that there is love there. You can love people and still have toxic dynamics. And I think that Carrie Coon, another wonderful actress, I felt like she knocked it out of the park as Lori. Lori's they were all saying like what they liked about the trip. And Lori's like realization at the end and her little monologue, I felt like that was really heartfelt. And I felt like that Jacqueline and Kate were actually like, oh, wow. Too. And now they have the added trauma that they witnessed a shooting. So that's definitely going to keep them as friends. I mean, did you think, I never thought the friendship, I thought their story was going to end exactly how it did. They were going to move on. How did you think that was going to pan out?
that went very, very much like I thought at the beginning and it played out at the end that this was going to be a situation of these friends, they're all fake with each other. They're going to come in.
But they still like each other.
Yeah, they're going to go through some crap. They're going to get mad at each other, and then before they leave, they're going to make up, whether it's real or false. And I think this was a little bit more of a genuine makeup. And I think that their relationship going forward is going to be a little bit more genuine than when we found them. I do think there was growth that took place.
Yeah, they're still going to talk about each other,
but they're still going to talk shit on each other, and that's just how it goes.
You said a bad word.
I'll put me in jail.
Well, I do like how everyone's like, not Carrie Coon. Lori told Jacqueline that her face was pretty, and Jacqueline just lit up. Now I gotta say, I'm gonna address this because I've taken some crap. Some other people in line have taken some crap. What Jacqueline did was a crappy friendship thing, trying to have the power, wanting to be like the hot one. It's just the whole dynamics of it. I didn't say that she's a great person. When I said I kind of agreed with what she was saying about Lori, I stand by that. That was the previous episode. She was like, at some point, you got to look when you're you're the victim of your own decision making. And I felt like that was illustrated, like that Lori, while we love her as a character, she made horrible decisions in that episode. She went off with those guys. Yeah. She accepted drinks from them, not knowing where they came from. And she went to his apartment. Like, she could have, and I think Lori kind of realized, like, oh crap, I am the victim of my bad decisions. So I would like to say that, like, everyone back off that. Just, there you go. And that brings us to the other point. The robbery ended up being a big fat nothing burger for the most part.
Yep.
It was never about the robbery, y'all. It was never about it.
If anything, all the robbery was to serve the character of Gatok.
Is that his name, Gatok? Are we saying it right?
Yeah, I think so.
If not, apologies.
And his growth.
Yeah, the
I
little
say growth
devil
in
and
air
angel
quotes,
on the shoulder. Yeah. Everyone's like, what was the point of Mook? The point of Mook was to, again, she was kind of like almost the devil in a way. Maybe she thinks she's doing good, but like she basically told him like, I'm not interested if you're not ambitious or something.
Yeah.
Do you think she genuinely likes him or likes the security that he could provide her in a better job?
I don't think that she would be hanging around him and pushing him to be ambitious
if she wasn't
into him a little bit. But ultimately, she's seeking that security that comes along with somebody who can be a wage earner, and that's what he did, and that's why she was pushing him.
I think that she's still going to break his heart ultimately. And was it worth it to sacrifice your values and your integrity? Because at the end of the day, the world's worst security guard decided, I'm gonna land me the girl and land me the job.
And he did.
And he did. Turned around, fired that gun. Shot Rick, and he gets to be the security guard for the owner of the hotel. We see him with his shades. I hope it was worth it. For boring old Mook. A lot of people loved her character or thought she was really boring. I have nothing against the actress, but I mean, I'm not going to say Mook was a boring character, but she was a boring person on screen. Like she was just there to serve his storyline.
Yeah.
And I think like you and I had this conversation, I feel like it was intentional to put that actress in there because she is very famous in other countries, and that was to get some eyes on the show. But her character was never meant to be anything more than a boring plot for him, the world's worst security guard.
I would be interested if like we ever get to the White Lotus season 8 or 9 or something like that, and they pop in at going to as now the new owners of the White Lotus because they've somehow weaseled their way into that whole thing. That would be pretty funny.
I don't know. It's just fine. Was it worth it for him to do? Because he was even like, I'm just such a passive person. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. If we probably never will see. Choose your own adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Am I leaving anything out? Oh, Fabian. In the past 2 seasons, the hotel managers have had much more of a role. He didn't. Now, hardly anyone wanted to hear him saying, did he get shot or did he just fall into the water?
I think he just fell in the water.
When all that went down.
Yeah, I just think he fell in the water. I don't know why everybody expects each season to be the same formula. Like,
I know, I'm glad it's not.
It shouldn't be that way. And, if there wasn't a role for the manager of the hotel, a major role this season, then there wasn't a role for him. So I don't have a problem with that either way. There were plenty of interesting characters this season to watch go through their journeys, and I didn't need the manager specifically.
I've seen some people that are like, oh, why didn't the cop show up? What was going on? I was like, we were never going to see all the after effects of that.
No.
Like, would I have liked to have seen Saxon's reaction to everything? Yeah, but hey,
listen, for all we know, he never finds out what happens to Chelsea because they're going to keep that stuff under lock and key anyways, and names aren't going to get thrown about in that manner, especially, in that country where the police are going to come in. They're not even going to speak the same language. So even if they knew something went down and saw cops, they're not necessarily going to know anything that happened.
One of the best images that I saw of the closing was the kids before the show and after the show. We had Piper with the headphones on. We had Saxon with the sunglasses, and then we kind of had Lachlan. You see Piper, no shades. And then we've got Lachlan with the sunglasses on, kind of like almost like, you know, speak no evil, see no evil. And then we've got Saxon with the book.
Yep.
And it's almost like a role reversal, if you will, for some of them. And then did you read about the scene that was cut about Piper and
I think I've read
Belinda's
about like
son? 3
scenes that have been cut at this point. So.
I guess like Piper and Belinda's son did hook up, but they cut the scene entirely, like because she decided after she had the epiphany about who she was that maybe Saxon was right and she should like lose her virginity. I think unless we had another episode, it was a smart choice creatively to cut that scene. That would have been just too much.
The finale episode was already way longer than all the other episodes anyways. So yeah, I think that was probably a good cut to make there. Anyhow,
I like the finale. I thought it was great. Very well done. Was it predictable in places? Sure. But for everybody that expected all these insane things to happen, I feel like you just not like go back and watch the other seasons, I guess.
Yeah.
How would you rank the seasons?
I was about to ask you the same question. Rank them.
I'm still going to go with, this is a very unpopular opinion, but there's something about just the creativity, and I like storytelling. I didn't find it boring. I like the slow burn. Season 1 for me still ranks as top. I'm going to throw I'm going to put season 3 in my 2 slot, and then I did not dislike season 2, but it's the weakest of the 3 seasons. So I go 1, 3, 2.
That's my order as well. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, he might have died on the show, but Walton Goggins lives on as Baby Billy Freeman for the Righteous Gemstones. So we actually did watch the episode 5 of the Righteous Gemstones because when we had such a heavy White Lotus finale, we had to decompress with our gemstones. So kick us off with what was going on there and some of your thoughts, and then I'll give you mine.
This episode was kind of all over the place for me.
Yeah.
Like they really were kind of all over the place. Baby Billy and his teen-just show idea.
Taking a line of drugs.
Taking a line of coke. I'm not exactly sure where they're going here with his story this season. I thought at first maybe he would be like kind of a foil similar to how he was in season 1, but I'm starting to kind of slowly back off that idea because at first I had thought maybe he threw Lori their direction.
She contacted him.
But she contacted him, we find out. So I'm not sure that's exactly what's going on. So Baby Billy wants to be the center of attention.
More.
Yeah.
He's never satisfied. He wants the next bit of dopamine, if you will.
Yeah.
He wants the attention. He wants the money. Even after he gets the money, it's
More.
not even just the money. He wants the attention. He wants the fame.
Yep.
And I feel like he did live, even though he loved Amy Lee, he wasn't like, she was the one.
Yeah.
He was always in her shadow. And I feel like nothing is good enough for him. And I'm not sure we're going to get resolution for him. Like, sometimes you just don't for characters like that.
The only thing I can think of is, like, hate to see Walton Goggins have to do this 2 shows in a row, but, like, a 70-year-old doing lines of cocaine doesn't lead me to believe he's long for this world.
But don't you want to watch Teen Jesus? Teen Jesus.
So what's going on in the rest of them? I mean, they're all kind of going through their own individual struggles. Like,
yeah. Well, let's talk about the sad part first.
Okay.
The Kelvin thing. He's up for Top Cross.
Oh yeah.
Top Cross Following Man of the Year, and Jesse did give him some crap on that. But I think at the end of the day, after he watched Kelvin on TV being talked about that, like, you could see Jesse turn off the TV, and I think he felt sadness. So we'll back it up. I do think the reason why Kelvin was nominated for that, I agree, was they were trying to check off a box.
Yes.
And I knew, and Kelvin has been acting just like, so, I don't know, like, I'm better than the rest of my family because I'm nominated for this.
Mm-hmm.
I still hated to see what happened on that TV broadcast.
Yeah, that was terrible.
It kind of came into play. He got called out for his sexuality, and while I think that's why they were nominated, I think people like that should be nominated. And the delivery of the kind of the family foil from, I don't even know the guy's name.
Simpkins.
Yeah. Basically said so many hateful things to him. It was like, oh, you're interpreting the Bible. The Bible says it's wrong. And watching just Kelvin just kind of like go
he wasn't
into his inner
he wasn't
shell.
ready for somebody to go after him like that.
It was sad.
Yeah.
And I really hope that Jesse has his back in the next episode. Yeah, that was just watching poor Keith tear up. It was so sad. BJ's
still in his wheelchair, and
they have Dr. Watson now, though.
Dr. Watson. Something is creepy
monkey
about this monkey.
Well, it was Amber that she's volunteering for animals, like service animals that help people. So she brought the monkey over. Do you think it's just creepy? Or
No. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think that the monkey is going to form a bond with BJ and eventually is going to go after Judy Lee. I think that's what's happening. I think that is exactly where they're going, because that last scene when the monkey was watching, that just, to me, that was a jealousy look that the monkey actor was giving.
That's a good like little storyline there.
And so she's going to have to fight that monkey, is what I'm saying.
Get scorched earth. Can't with her. I really like though when she's like, "Hey, Dr. Watson, get me a what did she? I don't know what she said. Some flavor of White
Black
Claw.
cherry White Claw."
And the monkey brings it back, and I was like, "Well, that's not black cherry." And they did reference it. She's like, "Stop like the flavor ass, but look at this."
But did it not bring her the right flavor because it didn't know the difference, or because it doesn't like Judy and it likes BJ better?
I don't know. So let's go over then to Mr. Eli and Miss Lori. The kids are still very unhappy about it, and she's basically like threatening to be their evil stepmother. And then we find out that Jesse's like little squad of goons finds out this tea owner that a bunch of her ex-boyfriends have gone missing or died or something. I still think that's all a red herring. I do not think Miss Lori is bad. I think her son is bad. Stifler. You don't bring Stifler in and not
but
play.
By the end of this episode, they're making us think it's going to be an ex-boyfriend. And that ex-boyfriend better be
Nick Offerman. See, I think that her son, Stifler, is up to no good.
I think ultimately
he's the
ultimate
problem. Baddie and behind it all. I just think that they wouldn't do Eli dirty like that by giving him with somebody with
I agree.
Like, and I think it's the classic red herring. And you bring, Megan Mullally can come off like bratty, and I think she knows. I think the reason why she's saying like, "Hey, I could be," like, she knows how to go toe to toe with these kids. She's basically like, in my opinion, almost like an aunt to them.
Yeah, she knows them.
And she knows how to talk to him. She knows that Julie Lee's full of it. She's not going to smack her in the throat like Eli's sister. But I think it'd be very predictable for her to actually be the villain. But I think her son is up to no good. Ultimately, Stifler, man. What's his name on the show? Corey?
I don't know. Why would I know?
I don't know. We're so bad with names here, but I thought the episode was funny last night in the normal, like, funny tone. But I was just it was so sad, everything with Kelvin, that I'm just, like, it wasn't the ha-ha release I was looking for post White Lotus, if I'm being honest.
It's a bummer because as much as this show
sad.
does satirize, like, real life things, that's the one that kind of, like, is less funny to see satirized than some of the other stuff.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say about Gemstones?
Do we remember how many episodes we're getting? Are we about halfway through?
I think we're getting 8 or 9.
Oh, so we're more than halfway through. Okay.
Yeah, and they always do don't they always do an interlude episode? Like
well, we don't know.
flashback?
Since we got a prelude episode this season, do we know if we're getting a full interlude episode?
I have no clue, but I'm excited. It's even though it was a little bit of a bummer, I still obviously laughed. I'm sure they'll find a way to pull it together. We'll have to see. So, anything else you want to say?
Nope.
About them Gemstones? Well, speaking with our HBO Max or
HBO
Max.
Max has been like the place we've been watching TV lately.
Yeah. So when I cheated on Daniel on my snow day and watched all of Hacks season 1, I said Hacks could be a contender for my best thing going. You would watch some episodes here and there, but you didn't really know the arc of the characters. But you have started watching Hacks.
Yes.
Which returns with 2 episodes on, I believe, is Thursday, April 10th?
I believe so, yes.
Thursday. We're getting 2 episodes, and then we'll have the weekly release format. So now that you're starting to know the characters, what do you think so far about Hacks?
It's good. It's funny. I enjoy.
Better than fine.
it's better than fine. I enjoy it. I'll keep watching it, certainly. I called the one guy in the one episode jumping out of the window at the hotel.
Oh yeah, and
you were over there trying to convince me.
I was like, well, don't
get.
You were like, I'm not interested in this of her with this guy, and I was like, well, don't get too attached. So I did give you a hint.
Yeah. So
you're almost. You can see though the episodes are short, so you can see how easy it was for me to watch season 1 in one day, a snow day where I had nothing to do.
Over the weekend, we got like, what, 4 or 5 episodes? I
think 5.
So we're more than halfway through season 1.
Can you see why this show's winning awards?
Yeah, it's very good.
I think you and I are always going to be a little bit different with our best thing going. While I agree Severance is phenomenal, at the end of the day, I'm just the type... I'm such an intense person anyway that I need a little bit of a laughter. So I'm always going to lean a little more towards funny, I think, than you, ultimately. Even though I respect the art of Severance, I like something. And yes, I am one of the people that find the bear funny. It's like everyone always criticizes the bear. Didn't you have a show note about that, by the way? I don't know what were we watching where they caught off the bear.
I do.
I don't know what context this was in though.
Ghosts, actually. We'll get to that.
Okay,
We're
all
talk
right.
About that here in a second.
We'll get to that here in a minute. But yeah, I'm glad you're watching Hacks. It's not bothering me at all to rewatch it. In fact, I rewatch it. Like when my first watching, Ava really annoyed me a lot in the beginning with her attitude.
I mean, I can see that.
And now, because I love Ava, now she doesn't bug me. Does she bug you?
Not particularly, but okay. I know those people, so I've been one of those people. So.
Nice. Well, that brings us to our next thing. We are now caught up on Ghosts. When you start to exhaust all of the television, we do what we do best with Ghosts. We had, at least 5 episodes?
Yeah, 5 or 6, something like that.
I don't think we had watched since the Christmas
episode,
hadn't. So we were able to get all caught up with Ghosts. I think Ghosts is the perfect show to do that for. Like, I don't love watching it in the weekly release. Not that it's not funny, but it's such a funny show. The acting is good.
I almost can't watch a sitcom
in weekly release.
At this point. Like, I need at least 3-4 episodes because they're so short. Yeah. Especially, like, Ghosts is a actual traditional sitcom that airs on TV, which means it has a commercial breaks, which means it's only like a 21-minute episode, and I need more than 21 minutes if I'm going to sit down.
It was fun,
and
though,
be
getting
invested.
Caught up with it, and I liked getting caught up with the episodes. I will say this about Ghost: if you can get through the horror that is the Paramount Plus app, I would recommend you get on there and watch it. I love you're getting older with the shtick, but I love the shtick that Jay can't see the ghosts.
I'm getting a little. It's getting a little old.
One of my favorite episodes that we that we got caught up with was Hetty realizes that she's Irish in a previous episode, but somehow that gives her ghost power that she can be visible to everybody on St. Patrick's Day. And since she's like the traditional ghosts, it fits that she would have a traditional power that people could see her. And I love that Jay like saw her and that like they had a guest that saw her. I thought that was a great episode. Probably my favorite of the ones that we had watched.
I think so, yeah.
What do you think? You made a comment about Flower's personality.
She seems meaner since she came back from being in the well. And I don't know if that is writing towards just they needed like the storylines of like Sasapi and some of the other characters. They just need that kind of character around, or if there's something else going on. Because let's not forget that she met the weird pilgrim ghost down in the hole in the well, and we don't know. And supposedly she left. But we don't. But remember, we don't know what all these ghost powers are.
I think you're reaching a little bit like that. Remember, we were convinced that Jay was going to die in season 1.
It's not that show. I know,
because he was eating Oreos and bad food all the time. We're like, oh my gosh, Jay's going to have a heart attack. We went real dark. I think I do agree with you a little bit though with Flower. At first, I thought she was just ragging on Sass because he's like a 500-year-old virgin or something. But then when she kind of made the mean comment to Sam.
Mm-hmm.
So I do see what you're saying a little bit, but I think you might be reading into it too much. I mean, if you end up being right.
Yeah, it would be one thing if she was a mean girl hippie, right? Throughout the entirety of the show. But we're in season 4, and this is the first time I'm picking up this vibe. Yeah. And so just something seems off. Maybe that they changed the writer or something. I don't know.
All right. So what was the note that we had about the bear?
Oh, the note was just, it's like the bear, but a comedy.
Oh, they were talking about Ratatouille.
Yeah.
Jay getting ready for the restaurant opening. Okay. And they accidentally, Flower thought the world was going to end because her cult said that. So she brings the cholera pit ghost up, and their power is that they can give people cholera for 24 hours. Yeah. So they had to, his whole staff had cholera, so the other Sam and people had to work on the food, and they had to tell them what to put in there, right? Is that how it was?
Yeah,
and that's where we got the joke.
Yeah, and again, let me say, her ghost power is to run through people and get them high. Yeah. Why did she need the cholera ghost to screw up the restaurant? She could have just run through them all, got them all high.
Probably because she's forgetful and she forgot her own ghost power.
I guess. There's something off about Flower. And I'm suspicious,
you just love Flower.
But I'm probably reading too much into it because it's not that kind of show. This show's not that deep.
I really want Isaac and his British ghost boyfriend to get back together. We had a new ghost temporarily, the stripper ghost, but then his power is that he can fly off and go away.
And we met another traveling ghost.
Yes, and I liked her. She was like a 20s, 30s writer.
Yeah. Something like that. So
what was it? Sam was pitching her a script, and she's like, "Oh, we'll call it Polar Opposites for a Hallmark movie." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I would totally watch that." Absolutely. So yeah, caught up with Ghost. We are one episode from being caught up with Abbott Elementary, and I think at this point we're just going to talk about Abbott when the season ends. And Suits LA. Those of you that are wondering, I think at this point we're going to let Suits LA stack a little bit. It doesn't bode well for the future of the show for us that we have just zero interest to even watch the next couple episodes that Harvey shows up in. Eventually we will, but I think we'll finish the season. We're just going to let it stack for a little bit.
If we get through the Harvey arc coming up and it's still not whole and Harvey's gone again, and it's no motivation, I might dip.
You might dip. You're not going to finish it out. All right. Well, speaking of finishing shows, what show did I finally finish? 20-plus-year-old show.
Desperate Housewives.
I did. And you know what, Daniel? I'm so close to just restarting season 1 because oddly enough, I could see this dark comedy as being a comfort show to me.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. I found the finale to be quite satisfying. I liked the scene with all the ghosts on Wisteria Lane. And
I thought that was...
this is weird.
That was not just weird.
It was weird that they had George there and some of the mean ghosts.
That was not just weird. That was a little sinister.
Well, see,
if you die on Wisteria Lane, your soul is trapped here forever.
it's a dark comedy. I agree. Seeing George was a little weird and some of the weird ghosts, but I was like, ooh, Carl, because Susan's ex Carl is super hot. I like how you were like super confused with my reaction to Tom and Lynette getting back together in the end because they went through their separation. And I always rag on Tom, but then I'm crying at them getting back together. It's because at the end of the day, I still want Lynette to be happy. And it was a beautiful shared moment between the two of them about things that matter in life. But then literally that they got back together in the episode before the finale. And then like he was back to ticking me off again. In the finale, Tom Scavo. Oh my gosh. Such a frustrating character, man-child. He'd probably be my least favorite character. Gabby and Carlos ended up being my favorite couple. I felt like all the endings worked. The only thing that I'm not real thrilled about, and I knew going into season 1 because I had remembered reading about this, like, you know how you used to read magazines at a grocery store?
No.
Okay, well, I would always see them. I knew that Mike, spoiler alert for a 20-plus-year-old show, I know that Mike died. I didn't know how he died. I don't think that was necessary for him to die, but if you're thinking about Susan's ending, basically a lot of things was always like that Susan always needed a man, and she kind of has her next purpose. She's going to be a grandmother. She's going to leave Wisteria Lane, leave her friends, go off with Julie. And she said, never say never. I think there's a chance that Susan would move on with life. But I felt like that was just so unnecessary because I assumed when I knew that Mike was going to die that maybe the actor wanted to leave the show. No, they just killed him off.
Why would you leave the show with two episodes left?
It was just sort of silly. I thought Bree's ending felt very rushed. She ended up with Scott Bakula, who you talked a lot about during, what was it, Only Murders in the Building.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Scott Bakula ended up being endgame for Bree Vandekamp. Gabby, like, being like a personal shopper and finding success from that, and Carlos being the supporter. I thought that was really great and that they really came so far with their storyline. I really enjoyed it. I would 10 to 10. I would watch Desperate Housewives again. 100%. My biggest complaint is the Scavo children's ages. Like, it was never consistent, and that really drove me nuts because
they did the time jump midway through, but then they never seemed to understand. They seemed to forget
twins,
it
all over the place
conveniently, like whenever they needed to forget that there was a 5-year time jump.
Like the Porter Scavo being Julie, Susan's daughter's baby daddy, and Julie used to babysit him. Like, at the end of the day, they were probably only 6 years apart in age, 6 years. It really wasn't as big as what it seemed. So whatever. My biggest beef was Parker was always showed to be 1 year younger than the twins, but he's still in high school and closer to Penny's age. And then you have the twins that are now in their 20s. That was just annoying. But I think that's a thing where don't read too much into it.
No, it's not that deep.
It's not that deep. So I like Desperate Housewives. Are you glad?
I'm glad it's over.
But you can see how
Please don't restart it.
The show's a vibe. I might just have to restart it. So yeah. Anything else you want to say about stuff we've been watching?
No, not this week.
Because next week we're off.
We're taking a week off, doing some
birthday
activities.
Turning 27, baby.
Kind of running low on shows here. We got Gemstones holding on, but we got to find something here. Maybe that show on Apple TV Plus, that the studio that I tried to convince you to watch. You told me no, and
three times.
And then yesterday we're like, hey, I want to watch this show on Apple TV Plus.
No, you said, hey, I think I'm going to cancel Apple TV Plus. And I was like, no, there's a show with Seth Rogen and I don't know. Catherine Hahn that I want to see. And you're like, are you serious right now? I'm like, yes. And apparently that was a show that you were droning on and on.
It was droning on, sending TikToks, all this stuff.
We got Hacks. You're gonna get caught up.
I'm gonna catch up with Hacks. And
it does suck that White Lotus and Severance, 2 shows I was looking forward to each weekend, are done.
Yeah, and we still don't technically have a release date for Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, even though last week we talked about August 1st. There's still not been an official announcement, and it really annoys me. But with that, thank you for tuning in, and we will talk to you in 2 weeks' time.